Every living cell runs on energy, but microbes are masters at getting the most out of almost anything, from oxygen-rich tissues to environments where oxygen doesn't exist at all. Microbes have evolved metabolic strategies that let them survive, grow, and sometimes cause disease. Hi, and welcome back to my channel, Learning Biology with Dr. Vanessa, where I take difficult biological concepts and make them easy to understand. In this video, we're going to take a look at microbial metabolism, how microbes obtain energy, build cellular components, and power everything they do. While this topic can feel overwhelming at first, it follows clear patterns that also apply to human cells, which is why it's so important for future healthcare professionals to understand. What is metabolism? Metabolism refers to the sum total of all the chemical reactions that occur inside a cell to maintain life. These reactions allow cells to obtain energy, build molecules, break down nutrients, and reproduce. Metabolism can be divided into two major categories: Anabolism, which are reactions that use energy to build large molecules from simpler building blocks, or Catabolism, which is the opposite of anabolism, and these are reactions that break down larger molecules into simpler building blocks, releasing energy. You can think of catabolism as breaking things down to release energy, and anabolism as using that energy to build the cell. None of these metabolic reactions would happen fast enough without enzymes. Enzymes are biological catalysts, usually proteins, that speed up chemical reactions without being consumed. They work by lowering the activation energy, which is the energy needed to start a reaction. Each enzyme has a specific active site whose shape fits a particular substrate, the molecule the enzyme acts on. This specificity is often explained using two models. The lock and key model says that the substrate fits exactly into the active site. The induced fit model shows that the enzyme slightly changes shape to better fit the substrate. Once the enzyme-substrate complex forms, the reaction occurs. Products are released, and the enzyme is free to work again. Some enzymes require helpers called cofactors to function properly. Cofactors may be inorganic ions like iron, magnesium, or zinc. Coenzymes are organic molecules, often derived from vitamins such as NAD or FAD. Without these helpers, many metabolic reactions would not occur. When a cofactor or coenzyme binds to an enzyme, the fully functional form of the enzyme is called a holoenzyme. A holoenzyme is a conjugated enzyme consisting of two parts: the apoenzyme, which is the protein portion, and a cofactor, which may be either an inorganic ion, such as zinc, iron, or magnesium, or an organic molecule, often a coenzyme derived from vitamins. The apoenzyme alone is inactive. Only when the appropriate cofactor is bound does the enzyme adopt the correct shape and chemical properties needed to catalyze a reaction. In this way, holoenzymes illustrate how enzyme activity depends not just on the protein itself, but also on the availability of essential helper molecules. Enzyme activity is not constant and is tightly regulated by the cell to meet changing metabolic needs. Enzyme function is influenced by substrate availability, pH, temperature, and the presence of required cofactors. When substrate levels are low, reaction rates decrease, and when substrate is abundant, enzyme activity increases until the enzyme becomes saturated. Extreme changes in pH or temperature can cause denaturation. This alters the enzyme's three-dimensional shape, including the active site, and results in a loss of function. Cells also regulate enzyme activity by controlling enzyme production. Some enzymes are produced continuously because they are always needed for basic cellular functions. These are called constitutive enzymes. Other enzymes are synthesized only when their activity is required. These are known as regulated enzymes. Regulated enzymes can be turned on, induced, or turned off, repressed, in response to changes in concentration of the substrate. Enzyme activity can be further fine-tuned through inhibitors and activators. In competitive inhibition, an inhibitor, which is a mimic, competes with the substrate for the active site. The binding of the inhibitor prevents the binding of the actual substrate, reducing enzyme activity. In non-competitive inhibition, the inhibitor binds to a different site on the enzyme, changing the shape of the active site, which decreases enzyme activity even when the substrate is present. Together, these mechanisms allow cells to precisely control metabolic pathways and conserve energy. Let's talk about some controls on enzyme synthesis. In enzyme repression, the presence of a final product shuts down enzyme production. If a cell already has enough of a molecule, it stops making the enzymes needed to produce more. In enzyme induction, enzymes are produced only when their substrate is present. This allows microbes to adapt quickly to new nutrient sources. For example, E. coli in medium with only lactose will produce the enzyme lactase to hydrolyze it into glucose and galactose. If you then take that E. coli and place it in a medium with only sucrose, it will stop making lactase and make the enzyme sucrase instead. This efficiency is one reason microbes survive so well in changing environments. All cellular work requires energy, and that energy is most commonly stored and transferred in the form of ATP or adenosine triphosphate. Reactions that release energy are called exergonic reactions, while reactions that require an input of energy are endergonic reactions. Because many essential cellular processes are endergonic, cells often couple them to exergonic reactions, such as ATP hydrolysis, allowing energy to be transferred efficiently. In this way, ATP acts as the cell's main energy currency, linking energy-releasing reactions to energy-requiring ones. A major source of usable energy for cells comes from oxidation reduction or redox reactions, which involve the transfer of electrons. Oxidation is the loss of electrons, while reduction is the gain of electrons, and these reactions always occur together as a redox pair. Enzymes, known as oxidoreductases, catalyze these reactions, often removing electrons and hydrogen atoms from substrates in a process called dehydrogenation. The electrons are temporarily carried by molecules such as NAD+ and FAD, which become reduced and later donate those electrons to drive ATP production. Many metabolic pathways also involve phosphorylation, which is the addition of a phosphate group. This helps capture and transfer energy within the cell. ATP is the energy currency of the cell. The energy released during catabolic reactions is captured in ATP. ATP stores the energy in its high-energy phosphate bonds. When ATP is broken down into ADP, the removal of that terminal phosphate releases the energy. This energy can be used to power work in the cell, biosynthesis, active transport, cell movement, and division. Without ATP, metabolism stops and so does life. In microbes, ATP is produced primarily through catabolic pathways that break down organic molecules and transfer energy through redox reactions. Depending on the availability of oxygen and other electron acceptors, microbes use one of the three main strategies to generate ATP. The first is aerobic respiration. Aerobic respiration is a series of reactions that converts glucose to carbon dioxide to capture energy. It includes glycolysis, the Krebs cycle, and the electron transport chain. Glycolysis is the first step in glucose breakdown, which occurs in the cytoplasm. This step does not require oxygen, and it turns glucose into pyruvate, netting 2 ATP and NADH. The Krebs cycle takes place after glycolysis and further breaks down pyruvate into carbon dioxide while transferring energy to electron carriers. The electron transport chain uses high-energy electrons to create a proton gradient that drives ATP synthesis. This is where most ATP is produced during aerobic respiration. In the final step, oxygen accepts electrons and hydrogen to make water. Now, if oxygen is unavailable, then microbes may use anaerobic respiration using alternative electron acceptors such as nitrate or sulfate. Some microbes rely on fermentation, the incomplete oxidation of glucose, which allows glycolysis to continue by regenerating NAD+, even though much less ATP is produced. The final electron acceptors are organic compounds. Microorganisms produce a wide variety of fermentation end products, which are often used to identify them in the laboratory. Common fermentation products include lactic acid, produced by lactic acid bacteria such as lactobacillus, ethanol and carbon dioxide produced by yeast, as well as solvents such as acetic acid and butanol. These products can affect the surrounding environment by lowering pH or producing gas, and may have important roles in food production, human health, and industrial processes. While carbohydrates such as glucose are common energy sources, microbes are remarkably versatile and can carry out catabolism of non-carbohydrate compounds, including lipids and proteins. Lipids are broken down by extracellular and intracellular enzymes called lipases, which hydrolyze fats into glycerol and fatty acids. Glycerol can be converted into intermediates of glycolysis, while fatty acids undergo beta oxidation, a pathway that removes 2 carbon units to form acetyl-CoA. Acetyl-CoA then enters the Krebs cycle, allowing lipids to serve as a highly energy-rich fuel source. Proteins can also be used as carbon, nitrogen, and energy sources by many microbes. Proteins are first degraded into amino acids by proteases, and before those amino acids can enter into central metabolic pathways, their amino groups are removed through deamination, producing ammonia or other nitrogen-containing compounds. The remaining carbon skeletons are converted into intermediates of glycolysis or the Krebs cycle. In addition to breaking down molecules for energy, cells must also build complex molecules needed for growth and reproduction. Anabolism refers to these energy-requiring biosynthetic processes. Many central metabolic pathways are amphibolic, meaning they function in both catabolism and anabolism. For example, intermediates from glycolysis and the Krebs cycle can be diverted to synthesize amino acids, nucleotides, fatty acids, and carbohydrates, all of these things that are needed to create those macromolecules. So through these anabolic pathways, microbes can assemble these macromolecules that are essential for life, including polysaccharides, carbohydrates, proteins, lipids, and nucleic acids. These anabolic pathways use the energy from ATP. Carbohydrates are synthesized for energy storage or cell wall construction. Amino acids are linked together to form proteins. Fatty acids are used to build membranes. And nucleotides are assembled into DNA and RNA. Together, these processes allow microbes to grow, divide, repair, and adapt to changing environments. Microbial metabolism is what turns nutrients into life, fueling growth, movement, repair, and reproduction at the cellular level. From enzymes and ATP to respiration, fermentation, and biosynthesis, these pathways explain not just how microbes survive, but why they behave the way they do in the body, in the environment, and in clinical settings. If you found the content of this video helpful and want to keep learning how microbes affect the body, Please make sure to subscribe, give this video a like, and turn on notifications so that you never miss out on new content. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.